out of order, but I think in terms of the couple of the points that have been raised, let me just address one more time. Mr. Ivey's expressed concerns that there could be some unanticipated ways that things would not be handled, or the courts would have to go doing something really totally new. And Ms. Hageman has addressed this pretty thoroughly. The reason to track the language of 1983 is Section 1983 is to make sure that all of the thousands of cases against state officials that have come along and been decided by our courts and established judicial doctrines like qualified immunity that protect the administration of law and only seek to and only impose liability upon people who are violating clearly established law, is exactly the reason to duplicate that with respect to this when we're opening this to federal officials. And the reason to, I mean, I understand someone can always take a bill and go farther than it goes, but I don't understand that as a basis for objecting. In fact, I would think that members who have advocated for doing it with respect to all constitutional rights would certainly embrace this opportunity to do a test case for federal officials. And as for me, I mean, the reason we're doing it is because that's where the problem is. The First Amendment rights are the ones that, to me, the evidence that we've uncovered in our investigative processes indicates are being trampled by federal officials. The last time Democrats used iron partisan control of law enforcement and prosecutors and judges and jury pools to punish the innocent and execute the unjust, they did it with state officials in the Deep South. Congress responded with Section 1983, originally enacted as the Ku Klux Klan Act. And now the tool Democrats are using, in my belief, is federal agents and agencies. If that is an unfounded belief, then people can bring actions and they'll be dismissed out of hand because they won't be able to demonstrate or allege violations of clearly established law with respect to First Amendment rights. If on the other hand that is occurring, then again, those who've advocated the Bivens Acts in previous and want to do this, as Mr. Nadler suggested, for every constitutional right will have the camel's nose under the tent. You'll have established that it works, and it works well for federal officials, and it was a good idea, and then someone can broaden it later. I can't think of any reason for someone to object to it's what they all call a half a loaf, right? So it'd be a great bipartisan exercise.
Would the gentleman yield for a question?
I will. It's not my time to yield, but I would.
I yield.
All right. I appreciate the gentleman's comment on expanding it, and I certainly would be all in favor of expanding, dealing with the qualified amendment issues, and we could address that, especially to the extent it dealt with police conduct under the 4th, 5th, 6th Amendment, for example. And I do think that, and I don't know if the gentleman's open to, a friendly amendment, but that would certainly be one that I would support. As far as having the camel's nose under the tent, we already do. I mean, the Bivens legislation, and the body of law that the colleague from Wyoming mentioned a few moments ago is extensive and I think shows really clearly that it doesn't go far enough with respect to law enforcement excessive force cases, for example, based on Supreme Court rulings in the recent times. So I would certainly request that the other side consider accepting the ranking member's amendment or something like it, so we can broaden it and address it in that way. And I've just, in one last quick point, your point about the president, vice president language is an amendment that's coming after we deal with this, when I'll be offering that shortly. And then lastly, with respect to the gentlelady from Wyoming, I would just say I take your point about the scope of employment. I didn't mean, though, while he's on duty. I just meant beyond the scope of what he's authorized to do as a police officer. And with that, I yield back. And I thank the gentleman for the time.
Remaining time is to the gentlelady from Wyoming.
Just very quickly, many of the other rights that you're talking about, such as the right to due process and equal protection, we already have the ability to bring actions related to those against federal actors. So that's another reason why we focused on the First Amendment, because as you keep referring to the Bivens action, there is a Fourth Amendment ability to sue the federal government for violating the Fourth Amendment or the Fifth Amendment. So we have those in place, the Sixth Amendment, the Eighth Amendment. It is only the First Amendment that has kind of been left out in the cold in terms of the case law as to a person's ability to sue a federal employee or federal actor for violating freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, and those sorts of things. So that's another reason why we are focusing specifically on the First Amendment, because that's the one where we do not have the ability to bring a cause of action right now. And with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Who seeks recognition? Gentleman from Maryland is your amendment ready, Mr. Rybee?
Call if I've been recognized yet for this, for this round.
Well, I was going to recognize you for your amendment. I thought you said you had an amendment coming.
I do, but